This week at the movies, Mel Gibson's first starring role since Signs in 2002.
Is Edge of Darkness worth the wait?
Fasten your seatbelt.
Also coming up this week,
it's January, time for a romantic comedy with a blonde female in the lead. Kristen Bell stars in When in Rome.
You think you're real charming, don't you?
do Steve Buscemi and Sarah Silverman make the new comedy St. John of Las Vegas worth gambling on?
He's cute in a psycho kind of way. You're psycho.
Plus, Paul Bettany cuts off his wings while Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson sprouts some wings of his own. We'll review Legion and Tooth Fairy.
No car, let's go.
Seeing someone?
Yeah. I wish you had someone.
You're my girl.
Mel Gibson is on the hunt for his daughter's killer. I'm Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm A.O. Scott of the New York Times.
Early on in our first film, Edge of Darkness, there's a shot of Mel Gibson that brings back memories of countless rage-filled Gibson vehicles of old, like Ransom and Payback. Now in this one, Gibson's character, Tommy Craven, is a Boston homicide detective who has just seen his grown daughter murdered on his front porch. The look in his eyes says it all in this shot. Vengeance will be mine.
Now I want to see the senator.
See the senator? What do you think you are?
I'm the guy with nothing to lose.
After the murder, Craven starts poking around the top-secret nuclear facility where his late daughter worked. The facility's run by Danny Houston, who I believe has yet to play an honest man in his entire acting career.
Northmore is an important part of the nation's nuclear stockpile and maintenance programs.
Emma was a part of this?
God, no. As an intern, she didn't have any direct involvement whatsoever. She worked on the research floor. We all very much regret Emma's death.
My favorite character in Edge of Darkness is the shadowy operative portrayed by Ray Winstone. I wonder if Gibson knows in these scenes that his comeback vehicle is being hijacked right out from under him.
There's a lot going on out there in this world. You just never can connect A to B. How do you know that? Because I'm usually the guy that stops you connecting A to B.
William Monahan, who won an Oscar for The Departed, co-wrote Edge of Darkness, which comes from a BBC miniseries. The director, Martin Campbell, also did the original miniseries, and you've really got two movies here. One is a Mel Gibson revenge thriller. The other is more about creating a sinister atmosphere punctuated with some startling violence. And this is in the spirit of 70s paranoia thrillers like The Parallax View. But even with its internally competing genre interests, there's enough to hold you here, and enough for me to say, see it. I like this film, despite the problems.
I wish I could agree with you. For me, the problems overwhelmed it. It started out, I thought, fairly strong. I was interested in it. I was gripped by it. And then I felt like these two genres that you identified, the angry Mel Gibson revenge dad movie and the elaborate conspiracy that goes all the way up to the top of corporate and government power movie, started working against each other. And by the end, they both felt really just tedious and just
no,
sort of
it's better than that. It's better than that. Well,
no, it's not.
No, I would say it is. I think it is a little better than that, Tony. I think what you have here is a film that really kind of works for two different sorts of audiences simultaneously. I was less, yes, interested in the revenge Mel Gibson thriller because I've seen that picture before. This is a better than average version of it.
5 or 6 or 7 or 8 times.
This is a better than average version of that. But I think everything that sort of exists on this second and third layer really does work. I think Martin Campbell, who did the best Bond film in 30 years, Casino Royale, really knows how to pull it together. And
I just
Ray
didn't think
Winstone
there was
is
enough.
fantastic.
Yes, Ray Winstone is very good. But can I just interject something else that really bothered me? It's these Massachusetts accents. just listen for a minute.
You know, Detective, a very important part of the Massachusetts economy is research and development.
Senator, I think you're in a position, Senator, regarding Northmore, where you had better decide whether you're hanging on the cross or banging in the nails.
Now, I was actually born, or as we say, born, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Good accent.
And I lived there for, well, I come by it honestly. Unlike the people in this movie who just drop their R's from one end of the Mass Pike to the other. And it just drives me crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Gibson's giving more of an accent than a performance. But
neither Houston nor Winstone are doing the accent, and that's why their performances are the only good things in this movie.
Well, no. There's plenty of reasons to see it, despite the problems it's worth seeing. Lately, Mel Gibson's made as much noise for his personal life life as he has for his work. But he's had a fascinating film career, both behind and in front of the camera. From Mad Max to The Passion of the Christ, we'll talk about the highs and lows of Gibson's work on our website. Just click on Web Exclusives.
In our next movie, When in Rome, Kristen Bell plays Beth, a workaholic New York museum curator who jets off to Rome for her sister's wedding and finds herself picking coins out of a fountain. Not because she needs the money, but because she's sick of all this nonsense about love. And then, lightning strikes.
Each one of you is a desperate wish for love that is never gonna come true.
For magical reasons that are not entirely clear, Beth's fountain robbing causes 4 wacky dudes to fall in love with her, including a sausage mogul, played by Danny DeVito, and a magician, played by Napoleon Dynamite's John Heder. But the dude she's sweet on is a hunky ex-football player named Nick, played by Josh Duhamel.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm so sorry. Oh, gosh. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that was you. I'm really sorry.
Oh, it hurts so bad, but it tastes so good. What is that, mint?
It's breath spray.
That gag is unfortunately typical of this movie's lame and desperate attempt to mix madcap humor with gauzy romance. Look, a bunch of people in a really tiny car.
Who makes this car? Fisher-Price?
In Italia, this is a mid-sized car.
In America, it's a clown car.
The supporting cast of When in Rome is talented, and the leads, when they're allowed a quiet moment together, can be sweet and sexy. But like just about every other rom-com pair these days, Bell and Duhamel deserve better. And so do you. Skip it.
Arrivederci Roma. I say skip it as well. And Tony,
I feel like we've been here before.
We have been here before.
With a bad romantic comedy.
You mean you've been in a corner of New York that's actually dressed up to look like a corner of Rome because they only did second unit stuff in Rome? I don't know. The whole thing, sitting through this movie, all you're doing is thinking, it can't be impossible to make a good romantic comedy. And then you realize, okay, 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah.
That worked.
I thought Definitely Maybe.
Yes, that was a good film. It didn't get the audience deserved. You know, it's complicated. That's a romantic comedy that essentially holds together. And this, you have, you know, I disagree with you on whether or not the leads are really big enough for this picture, because I think Kristen Bell,
well, she's very tiny.
She's very tiny. But I also think her talent is on the modest side, and she's not really interesting enough on her own to carry a picture like this.
But they don't even get a chance. I mean, the writing is so bad. The jokes are so terrible. The execution, I mean, you know, you have him like falling down into an open cellar or running into a pole, or her trying to like smash a vase.
The slapstick is terrible.
And there's no interesting romantic complication. The only thing is, does this guy love her because she took his poker chip out of the fountain, or does he really love her? That's just not an interesting question.
These are the screenwriters who wrote Old Dogs, and that's all we really need to say.
I guess you've said it all. Coming up next, it won't rival The Hangover at the box office, but one of us got more laughs out of this Vegas comedy than out of that earlier one. We'll review St. John of Las Vegas.
And later, he's bad, he's buff, and he keeps doing movies for kids. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson stars in Tooth Fairy.
They say you make your own luck. My name is John, and I am not lucky.
Where are you?
Las Vegas.
All right, compared to When in Rome, the bizarre but enjoyable little indie comedy St. John of Las Vegas looks like Dante's Inferno, and guess what? St. John of Las Vegas is actually loosely based on Dante's Inferno. Steve Buscemi plays a compulsive Vegas gambler cleaning up his act. He takes a job at an Albuquerque auto insurance company, and his boss, played by Peter Dinklage, assigns him to head back near Vegas, which has come to represent a circle of hell to our hero. He and his colleague, played by Romany Malco, are checking out an accident claim filed by an exotic dancer known as Tasty D. Light.
We have to see the stripper first, prove she's lying.
What happened to you?
Some guy rear-ended me.
Well, what if she really is hurt? Your boyfriend know you're a stripper?
Yeah, he works for the government, so like same thing.
Sarah Silverman plays John's smiley face of a girlfriend. Silverman hasn't gotten the movie role she deserves, I think. This one's small, but one of her best.
Oh, yeah, tell me what's happening.
We're, investigating.
Really?
Yeah, so I can't talk.
Well, good luck. Be careful. Call me when you can. I love you.
Love you.
Yay!
I love that little yay! Hugh Rhodes is the writer-director making his feature debut here, and his film exists on the margins of Vegas. This is the opposite of a big commercial Vegas comedy like The Hangover, which, sue me, I didn't like. This one's not for everyone, for sure, but I was amused by it, and for the cast alone, I say see it.
I'm one of the people it's not for, obviously, because I say
Okay.
skip it. I actually got more laughs out of the original Dante's Inferno, but you describe this as a comedy, and that's a little mystifying for me, because I saw a movie that was trying to be a quirky little indie road comedy, but that was neither funny nor especially dramatically compelling. I mean, Steve Buscemi works awfully hard to give his character this kind of, you know, twitchy, anxious something, some kind of energy, but the movie just doesn't. It just sort of sat there in the desert.
I think you're describing a much crazier and more strenuous film than this is. It's small. I agree that it's modest. It's not even very ambitious, despite its, you know, literary origins. But hold on. No, I think if you see the scenes between Buscemi and Sarah Silverman, you're seeing a certain kind of comedy that actually does work on its own terms.
Well, you're seeing two performers who can do interesting things, but I don't think that this movie has a coherent sense of what it's about, what its characters are doing, what kind of tone of comedy or drama or quirkiness it's trying to strike. I think it's just a bunch of stuff sort of cobbled together. You know, people driving in a car through the desert, meeting odd little characters, and it doesn't, for me, add up to anything at all satisfying.
I disagree with you, especially on the tone, because whatever this movie is, I think it really is small, all of a piece, though, and I think well acted. There you go. Coming up next, from the King of Pop to the Queens of the Roller Rink, it's our DVD Out Now segment.
And on next week's show, Channing Tatum and Amanda Seyfried star in Dear John. And John Travolta stars in From Paris with Love. Plus, it's your chance to outpick the critics. Our Oscar competition begins.
They say why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why? Daddy, do it that way. I like living this way. I like living this way.
It's time to talk about DVDs out now. First up, we should definitely talk about that global phenomenon, Michael Jackson's This Is It.
I like this film. I didn't, you know, this is the concert film that was cobbled together from rehearsal footage shot, you know, shortly before, and a few months leading up to Jackson's death. You know, I don't know how it's going to look on the small screen, but I think if you have the right home viewing experience and you're interested in Jackson's final months, it is worth it.
And if you're interested in watching the elements that go into a performance, I mean, I think it was a great kind of process movie, just a glimpse at his professionalism and his artistry and how he made his music and his performances.
It's only so revealing because it's not like a warts and all documentary. There are no warts, but it is worth seeing. Also on DVD, Drew Barrymore's directorial debut, Whip It, starring Ellen Page.
And Babe Ruth, Iron Maiden, neck and neck. They've been after each other the whole time. Oh! That's a hit check right there. You don't see Maven taken down like that too often.
Now, this was a nice movie. I mean, it's a very standard, familiar story in a way. The teenager played by Ellen Page growing up in Texas, and her mom is pushing her into being a beauty contestant in all of these youth pageants, and she discovers her passion for roller derby and becomes, you know, a champion on the women's roller derby circuit.
I think it works.
There's just some wonderful performances, too. Ellen Page is really good. Juliette Lewis is
Kristen Wiig,
good.
too.
Kristen
Very good.
And Marcia Gay Harden, and it has such a warm, fun, enthusiastic feeling. It's a very
why did it
film.
flop at the box office?
I can't figure that out, and I don't know why all of the girls who were going to see Twilight didn't, you know, latch onto this one, because this is a wonderful movie to take a teenage or a tween-age girl to.
Yeah, it's good, a pretty good film, I think. I think it's
nice. I think it's a good movie. And a movie that Michael liked a lot, which I thought was pretty awful, is Zombieland, also out on DVD, starring Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg.
My mother always told me, someday you'll be good at something. I mean, I don't think she could have guessed that something would be zombie killing.
All right, this is a sensitive, shattering, and beautiful portrait. No, hold on. It's not none of those things. But I think this was, honest to God, Tony, one of the funniest films I saw in 2009. And I got, you know, I've got sort of a limited tolerance for the zombie genre, but I laughed consistently at this thing.
When Bill Murray shows up, the rest of it is just like, you know, spinning its little pop culture wheels in its hamster cage.
Now, this thing flies. I think it's really funny. The performances, and I think the director, Ruben Fleischer, is somebody to watch. He's good. And we have to mention some of the movies coming to DVD, which you should avoid at all costs. Love Happens with Jennifer Aniston and Aaron Eckhart. Amelia, not as bad, but not very good, with Hilary Swank and Richard Gere. And The Time Traveler's Wife, starring Rachel McAdams and Eric Bana.
Now, interesting, that Time Traveler's Wife was this huge romantic bestseller and just a dreadful movie. Something about a movie where, you know, you have a little girl playing in a field and this naked guy shows up in the bushes and says, "It's all right, don't be scared. We're going to get married someday." Oh, creepy stuff. But Michael Jackson's This Is It and Whip It are available now. The other movies we mentioned will be available on DVD on Tuesday.
Coming up next, two very different movies whose main characters have wings, but do either of these films fly? We'll review Paul Bettany and Dennis Quaid in Legion and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in Tooth Fairy.
I'm just here for the tooth, sir.
Geico says 15 minutes could save you money, but it takes less than 15 seconds to tell you this. Drivers who switch from Geico to Allstate saved an average of $473 a year. Time to switch to Allstate.
Take one more step and I'll drop you right there.
You don't know, do you?
Don't know what?
You're gonna need this.
That was a scene from Legion, starring Paul Bettany and Dennis Quaid. We're taking a look at movies that opened last weekend but weren't screened in time for last week's show. I do not like this film, Tony.
Now, there's a lot going on here. Paul Bettany is an angel who's rebelling against God because God wants to destroy humanity by sending vampires, zombies to wipe everybody out. And there's 6 people stranded in a diner at the edge of the Mojave Desert.
Right.
There's a lot going on, a lot of theology, a lot of bad horror movie effects. Definitely a skipper, except for one scene where this crazy old lady comes into the diner.
Yes.
She seems really sweet. She ends up biting someone in the neck and crawling across the ceiling, leaving bloody
That's
footprints.
a 3-minute diversion in an otherwise mediocre picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, skip. But also in theaters is Tooth Fairy, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Hey! Who are you?
I'm the Tooth Fairy. Oh, yeah.
He's a hockey player who becomes a tooth fairy. Is there anything else to say except skip it?
No, I wish Legion were that easy to describe. No, I say skip it too. I think what you have here too is just another mediocre family comedy. I just felt like I sat through The Spy Next Door, a little dispirited about the results, and here we go again.
Exactly. But the question is, in a fight, who would win? Paul Bettany's Angel, Michael, or Dwayne Johnson's hockey-playing Tooth Fairy?
Yeah, Mel Gibson, even without the wings, I think.
Fair enough. In our next movie, the British underworld drama 44-Inch Chest, a bunch of guys get together to help out their friend, who is devastated to learn that his wife has been cheating on him. Since these fellows are London gangsters, the help consists of rushing into the wife's boyfriend's workplace in broad daylight, kidnapping him and shoving him into the back of a van.
Oi! Sit down! Concentrate on your snails.
Then they stuff the poor lover boy into an armoire and basically sit around waiting for their pal to take revenge. Not much happens in this movie, but it almost doesn't matter, since these garrulous thugs are played by some of the best British actors around. Tom Wilkinson, Stephen Delane, John Hurt, Ian McShane, and Ray Winstone, who we talked about earlier in the show, and who plays the wronged husband, Colin.
Where do you think you're going? You ain't going nowhere. You think you can say that to me and just go? Leave me with that? Stick a bomb in my brain and just go? Well, you can't.
44-Inch Chest, directed by Malcolm Venville from a script by Lewis Mellis and David Sinto, who wrote the awesome Brit gangster movie Sexy Beast, is too talky and static to be a must-see. But it's worth renting just to see this cast at work.
Tony, I'm always the one saying actors make this film, make this or that film worth seeing despite problems with the film. I have to say skip it on this one.
Really?
I felt like even with this cast and just seeing Ian McShane and Tom Wilkinson kind of dine out on these lowlifes is fun up to a point, but I just felt like it was not going anywhere after a while, and I did feel like I was trapped at a play that wasn't really working for me.
It doesn't, but I thought there was enough strength in the characterizations that I got through it, you know, waiting in a way for the really good movie that these guys could all be in together to start. But this was enough, I think, just for connoisseurs to rent.
Absolutely. All right. Coming up next, can't decide what to see in theaters? Stay tuned for my 3 to see.
So good to be home.
Closed captioning for At the Movies is sponsored by...
You can tell when a salad's Fresh Express and when it's not. Fresh Express salads are so consistently fresh and delicious, they're guaranteed. Fresh Express.
Hotel provided by Park Hyatt Chicago. Chicago's award-winning hotel and luxury dining experience, located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile on Water Tower Square.
My 3 to see this week is all about the pleasure of the right actor's company. Number 3, St. John of Las Vegas, a strange but worthwhile indie comedy starring Steve Buscemi as a compulsive gambler trying to get his life together. Number 2, Crazy Heart. Jeff Bridges plays a country singer named Bad Blake, and in this case, every acting award Bridges has picked up en route to an absolute sure-thing Oscar nomination next week, well, sometimes the majority is right, and Bridges proves once again just how subtle and enjoyable a performer he is. And number 1, Edge of Darkness. I'm recommending it not so much for Mel Gibson's starring performance in this revenge/conspiracy thriller, but for a wonderful secondary performance from Ray Winstone and for some juicy dialogue provided by co-writer William Monahan, who wrote The Departed.
That's it for now. We'll leave you with a recap of this week's show. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Just go to atthemoviestv.com to find out how.
And join us next week for reviews of From Paris with Love, starring John Travolta, and Dear John, starring Amanda Seyfried and Channing Tatum. And until then, we'll be at the movies.